Okay. From what we've done so far regarding Python, if anybody has any question or a problem that needs solving, then we can start from there. If not, we just go over everything we've done. Go over this. Mr. Olu, Funke, and Derek. Okay.
For me, I don't have any specific question. I think from what we did yesterday, which we have been
Not,
doing.
not just yesterday. If
Yeah,
anything we've done so far.
yeah, which we have been doing. So I don't have any question. That when we are trying to look at the data before we clean up, where we have the .df, where we introduce that command and we look at the head or the tail, or we specify the amount of data we want to look at depending on the data we have. Something popped up in my mind, but I think yes, we should be able to do that. What popped up was because when Mr. Kenny was explaining, he said something like, we only have 10 data in this database based on this class. If you are working, you will have 1,000,000 data. So in my mind, I was like, okay, so if I want to look at the head, then I can say, okay, give me the first, let's say I have 1,000,000 data, then I can look at the amount I want to look at specific, because the default is 5, correct?
Yeah, the default is 5.
So
But
I'm
you
just
can,
thinking, so it definitely, yes, I can look at as much as I want to look at, depending on the database. That's just something that was just going on in my head.
okay, yeah. You can look at as much as you want, but depending on how much data you have, and you'll know what to do. You should be able to know, or should I look at if you look at the first 5, and you are not able to make anything out of it, then you can add more to it. Then with that, then depending on what the goal is to do with the data, you should be able to know what to do.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other? If not, let me just explain again. Okay. So let's assume we are giving this data market analysis, and we just want to look at what we can do with it, just play around with it and get something out of it. First of all, usually what we'll do is to look at it in Excel, or depending on the file format it shows up in. You look at it in Excel and see what it looks like. Then we read it in. We know that this is where the folder it is in. Another way of doing this is we could just copy this, since we know that this is the directory. We could just copy all this. See, comment this out. And yeah, and then we'll still get the same result. We should get the same result, yes. Because now we are just going directly into this folder. We know where the exact part of where the file is. And then we'll just pass it into our pd.read CSV. and we have the same output of this. Then looking at it, you can see that the first line of the first line which becomes the column names doesn't make any sense to us. The second one also doesn't really make any sense to us. So as to become the column name, then we can skip that. Yeah, we can just remove those ones and then while we read it. So that's what we did here. We read the data and then we skip the first two rows. So which one makes this? It makes more sense for this to be our column names. So then we pass it in. And looking at it, okay, we have a cleaner. What we are doing now is cleaning it up to make more sense to us to work with. So we clean it up. We've cleaned it or done one step of cleaning. Okay, looking at it once more. There are some more things that we can do. You see, we have a column here. This job edu column. This column still contains comma separated values. That's what CSV means though. Still contains comma separated value. It will make sense to separate this into separate columns. Though there are several ways we can separate this, but one easy way is to use the apply method of pandas, which is what we chose to do. So first of all, the apply method takes, depending on how we use it, we can use it on a row, or we can use it on a data frame, which is this entire stuff here, this entire table. We can use it on a data frame, or we can use it on a series. Now, a series is just a column. Like this right here is a series, while a data frame, okay, let me put it this way. A series is either the row or a column of data. That is how, either a row or a column of data on our data frame is represented by a series. So we can use this apply method on a series or on an entire data frame, depending on what we want to achieve. But now we want to work on just a column, which is this job edu. We have looked at it and see it contains contains data that can be separated into individual columns. So then we can use this apply. This apply method takes a function. And if you remember yesterday, we had something called lambda function. I think that's a bit more advanced, so that's why I decided to change it into a function that we can easily view. So one way we can, when I looked at this, one way we can separate this is, first of all, we split it into a list. So we create a function that first of all splits this into a list. So the first item of that list will become, of the list that we split it into, will be this one. The second item will be this one. So also for all the items in this column, that is what we are going to do. That is what this apply function is going to do. So to do that now, we say, okay, let's create a new column. Creating a new column is to take our data. These are data frame data. Then add these brackets and put this then put job. This job. This will be the name of the new column we are going to create. Then again, we take our data and the old column, which is job edu. Then dot apply. Then the function that we want to create. Okay, let me explain this function again. So like I said here, first of all, we are splitting this. We know that this data, this cell of data will contain a string. We know that just by looking at it. See, we can see that it's just a string that has items that are separated by comma. So we can take that string, which is going to be X, then split it. If you remember our introduction to Python when we were working on strings, we had this string split method. To split it, this thing. Okay, let me expand this function. This is just, and then I'm going to print it out so that we can see what happens. So let's say, let me call this split X equals to like I said now, we are splitting X, which is going to be this one or this one, depending on at what point in our data frame it is in, at what row. Okay, so now we are splitting this into two items. Then we know that when we use split, it splits it and gives us an array or a list. And that list too, if you remember how we index our list, now we're interested in, we know that the first one is going to be the job. So we're interested in the job. That's why we call it get job. So you can say split X underscore X. The first item of a list will be what? I don't know who can answer that for us. We want to get the first item of the list. Mr. Ola, I thought you wanted to say something.
Not sure. I'm not sure. That's why I should have.
The first item of a list.
Maybe it's .ed or something.
No. Miss Funke.
The first item of a list
Yeah,
is 0, right?
yeah, it's a 0. So we're interested in the first item because we know. So let me print this out so that we'll see what happens. So when this runs, we are going to see this list, how the output of it. So the same thing happens here, but let's leave it at that. But we want the second one, which is going to be 1. Like I said, when counting in our lists, we start from 0. When counting the index, we start from 0. So the second one is going to be 1. So let's run this and see what happens. Okay, like I said, it's going to work on each of those rows. And if you remember how many rows we have here, it's about 45,000 rows. And that's how long this list is. So this is our get job. This is it being called here. So this line I asked it to print. That's a split X like now. I know that this is a string. Split will split it by the comma. So remember, look at this first one here. Management tertiary separated by comma. So it has splitted it into a list. And I said we wanted the first item to get that to be our job It's going to be separated into the job column. So that will be management. So that's why it's at the first, it's the first item. So it's going to be separated. Now, if we look at this, no. Oh, yeah, and yeah. I don't know why this is not showing up. Okay. So look at the job now. Management and tertiary. That was the first item. Technician and secondary. So that's how it is. So that's what this function does for us. So after doing that, now here we are separating them like we did for job, we also do for education. Now I created this function. Same thing as this. The only difference now is that we wanted the second one, which is going to be 1. That's 1 here. All right. So now that we've separated them, we don't need this job edu column anymore. So we're going to drop it. And to specify a column when you are dropping, when you want to drop, that's we want to delete either a column or a row. Now to specify, is it a row or is it a column? That's the axis. So the 0 axis is going to be a row. And then the 1 axis is going to be, what is it called? A column, the whole column, right? So that's what we did here. Now in place means that we don't need to assign, we don't need to reassign this for it to get our value. So it just does it on this same variable. So that's in place on this same variable. We don't need to reassign this to get the return value. So then we print out the head and see, that's what we see here. Okay, looking at this now, the data will usually have null values. Okay, you might decide, okay, let me see the missing values. Let's see where they are and what we can do to them. So instead of looking at it individually, we can just do is data dot is null checks whether it is null. It returns a true value. And then we count and get the sum for each column, how many of its value is null. So we can see that customer ID has no null value. Age has 20 null values. Amount has 50 null values. And response has 30 null values. So, okay. Said, oh, we are not interested in ages that have null values. Let's filter them out. This is how we filter them out. So we get data.age is null. We return a series of null values of we return a Boolean series. And then this would tell us that, oh, the inverse of what we are searching for is what we want. That's what this symbol means. the inverse of what we are setting, what we just inputted here. So what the initial query is data, the ages that are null, ages that is null. So what this will read that ages, not ages that is null. That is what it's going to bring to. That means it's going to remove all the null ages with null values. So if you look at the output now, then reassigning this, it means that it's going to overwrite all those ones. On this. Okay. So that's that. Then we check it again and see null values. We see that there are no longer ages with null values. It is now 0. Okay. So now let's look at what we can do again. Here we are just checking the mode, the most occurring modes, just mid-median mode, like we know in statistics. So the most occurring month is May 2017. So what do we now want to do? So we saw that we had a lot of, not a lot though, 50 months without, or 50 rows without month values. That means the months are null in those rows. So what do? Okay, we now say we want to replace those months with the most occurring month, which is May 2017. So what do we simply do? Use this method fill NA. Fill NA. Fill NA simply just fills every null value in that particular column. That is, in this case now we're interested in months. So data.month, that's the month column, then fill NA, then now replace it with this variable that it's declared here and assigned with month mode, which is May 2017. So we do that, then we check again. So we see that we check the month and see there are still any null values. We now see that 0. There are no null values. Okay. So here again, we see we are not interested in the response. So we say we are not interested in the rows that have no responses. So we also filter that out, just like we did for the ages above. After doing that, we get so, and that's that. We have removed the responses. So there are no null values again in our data frame. So now what we want to do here, we can decide to visualize and see our data and visualize and see what's happening in our data. One way of doing that is by plotting graphs or using charts. Then remember earlier at the top, we imported something called a library called matplotlib. Yeah, matplotlib as PLT. So we imported that at the top there. So this is a library that helps in plotting in plotting graphs and charts in Python. So one thing we can do with pandas again is, for example, we can see a count of values. You can see the count of values that we have. So, for example, in our job columns, there might be some repeated values, and we want to see how many times they occur. So we can just say data, which is our data frame, then the jobs column, value counts. Running this, let's see the output. Okay, it shows us we have blue collar occurring 9,722 times. How many admins do we have? We have about 5,000 plus admin. We have students. We have students and some unknown, we don't know their job. Okay. So we want to visualize this thing now that this data that we have here. So also, so to visualize this, we can say okay, so to visualize data using a bar chart, that's the count of how many, the count of our jobs now. We want to visualize that data in a bar chart. This is how we do it. So the jobs, data, which is our data frame, job, which is the column, and the values count. And then dot plots, dot what kind of chart do we want to see? That's bar chart. Then plots dot show, make it visible to us. I'm sorry, a PLT, that's matplotlib dot show will now make it visible to us. So depending on how our data frame is, you can use different charts for it. So one other thing we might want to see is, say, a bar chart. You can use that, you can see the education, how the education is distributed. Say, normalize, adding normalize or two. Only what it does is just turns count into a probability distribution. That's values between 0 and 100. So it just distributes it into a probability. Or, yeah, probability. So to do a pie chart, you can say data dot education, which is a column, the values count. So plot just like above, then pi. Then we do plt dot show. Then shows us, running this shows us our pie chart. Like I said, probability distribution. Adding all these numbers together should be equals to 1. And that is the idea. But if we want to see the actual count and values, then we can remove here, normalize. It shows us the counts. So this is the actual value here. So another kind of plot we can do is a scatter plot. So we can want to see a scatter of the salary and then the balance, how relationship between the salary and the balance of each individual in our data frame. So we can say, oh, this is one way of doing it. Say plt.scatter, we just take the two columns. That's data dot salary and then data dot balance. Just show this. This is the first one. The first one, that's this. And the second one is just showing us a scatter of the age and the balance of each person. And this is what it looks like. And then to use a heat map, we can use a heat map with a correlation of data. After we get the correlation of the data, so a way of getting the correlation is we filter out we do a filter of the columns we want, then we do dot call. This will give us the correlation. Let me print this. We can print. Okay, now. So after doing that, then we can pass that into this SNS.heatmap. This is another library that we imported at the top to show us our heat map. And then shows us what we want to see, how the data is distributed in a heat map. So next, we want to remove duplicates of data. Okay. Okay, to remove duplicates of data, first of all, let's look at what our data looks like. So looking at this, wow. I just repeated this to show us something. So looking at this, we have row horizontal duplicates and vertical duplicates. So we have both duplicate rows and duplicate columns. So looking at this, an easy way of removing duplicates from our data, we can just do data equals to data drop. Yeah, so it has removed one of this, the first and the second column. So here it removed the second column. You can see, you can note that by the index of the column that was removed. You can see remove the second column. So there's something we cannot do here, pass here. We say keep equals to we can say first. Okay. Or we can say last. Yes. So we asked it to keep the last one. So we can see that the first column of the duplicates was dropped as instead of the default, which is the second or the previous will be dropped and keep the first. But here we asked it not to keep the first. So that's it. So that's how we remove row duplicates. So we can still see that we have duplicate columns here. So how do we handle this? It's not as straightforward as doing that for the column. So first thing we can do is we can transpose this, and then when the columns become row, then we can be able to work with it. So what we first do, we can give it we first of all rename our columns. So first of all, so to transpose our data, we can say So we transpose our data like this. Then we can decide to rename the column. So column 1, column 2, column 3, and then we drop the duplicate, because since the rows are now columns, or since the columns are now rows, it will now be easier. And then we drop duplicates. This will now remove the duplicates columns, and then we transpose it back to get the initial data we were working with. That's why. So yeah, this is what we're looking for. So that's how we remove duplicates from our data. Any question?
Sorry, just a quick question.
Yeah.
I know when we want to print, we usually print then the brackets. So for this, we just use data, it doesn't matter. It's going to still give us our output.
Yeah, this particular ID, what it does is if we are our last statement is returning a value, it just prints it out. It prints it out for us automatically.
Oh, I see.
Just for
Okay.
this. But if, for example, if I put something else here, if there was something else under this data, no, say A equals to 1, nothing will be printed out for us. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Mistake. Let me do this here. A equals to 1. Yeah, nothing was printed out. Just but because this was the last statement here. But if I remove this here, you know, and bring it down, yeah, something comes out. This is just because this is the way this ID works. This Jupyter notebook works.
Okay. Thank you.
So I think in essence, what he is trying to ask is that we don't need to use the print parameter to get our output.
Yes, unless if it's in between lines of code, then you can print. But if it is the last statement, just that referring to this particular Jupyter, you might be using something else like VS Code, then you have to use the print statement. I hope you understand.
Yes, thank you.
Anything else?
Okay, cool. Thank you, Mr. Dozie. So, guys, can you get your lab ready? Let's take some pandas exercise. Let me take you through some pandas exercise before Mr. Kenny comes in. And it's going to be very important. Yeah, we'll take a 10 minutes break. It's going to be very important. You guys come in with your lab, try to refresh your lab. Let's do this practice. It's going to help you with the concepts in there. Thank you. Sorry, I was talking while muted. Sorry about that. So we're going to write a pandas program to add, subtract, multiply, and divide two pandas series. And at the same time, we're going to have, like, you'll see the first list I created. The first list I created an even. This is an even number, a set of even numbers. Then the other is a list of odd numbers. So if you will need to start with this program, we need to import the library. Who knows the library to import? Anyone? We have done this. What library do I import? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Pandas library, right?
Yes, I'll import pandas. I'm aliasing this. I'll alias pandas as PD. Then if I need to convert a list to a series, do you know the method to convert to a series? It was done in your last class. Anyone? Okay. So just watch me do some few stuff. So the first thing first is, if you need to multiply a value, you need to have you want to have this as A and this as B, right? So that you can do A plus B, A times B, A divided by B, and A plus B. Does that make sense? That's what we want to do here. So you need to pass this into a variable by using a method, which is part of the pandas library. So the first thing you want to do, you want to have A. You want to have A equals to PD dot series. So this is the method for the series. Then you now need to pass this instance into it. There's a difference between a series and a tuple. Though they are, with a series, you can change the values in there, but with a tuple, you cannot. But they are both, they both use the parentheses as a cover. So the same way you do that of B, we're gonna have PD dot series. Then you have the method in there. Then you copy this instance. Okay, we can see what we have so far. We can do a print A. You can also do a print B. Okay. Okay, so when you have this, sometimes no model named that. So what you do is you have to do a pip install. So do pip install pandas. That's on the shell.
Try pip3.
Oh, pip. I was about going into the bin itself.
Mhm. But look, the libraries were not dropped in.
The Python library,
Yeah.
it should be there. Okay, okay, you want to execute that present script, right?
No, it's missing a pandas model.
Let me check something on my end.
It's missing that. Basically, if we do it on a local, and you have this pip install pandas.
Please, can you scroll up a little bit so that I will see the file name? Let me click on, okay, yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, I wanted them to be able to do it on their lab as well. So if we have the pandas in there, the library pandas. While you do that, we don't want to waste time. We can just let me know when you drop the pandas in there.
All right, sir.
So I have, hi, Mr. Kelly, welcome. So now, guys, are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, so what I was trying to do there was
Yes.
this. So when you do import pandas as PD, okay, import pandas as PD, and it comes up with that model error, and you know your system is fresh and you haven't run anything like pandas. So what you do sometimes, you just do you install the library. Okay, this is a library you're trying to call. Okay, So you install that library. You do a pip install, or it's already there. Pip install pandas. So in some cases, you do it through your command prompt. You understand? You do it through your command prompt. You see, the requirement already satisfied. Okay. Because we have pandas in this on my local already. Okay. So now, are you with me? Okay. So now we have converted this to series. So we want to test this to see what we have in A and what we have in B if we have it as a series. Okay. So you see, we have print A, already have it as a series, and we also have this as a series. Okay, just imagine if you have this like this as C and this as D. It's going to print that data like a list. So we have A and B, the data in A and B. We are going to go ahead and do the first operation. Okay. So let's go ahead. Please follow, please. Very important. It's the basic before we go into complex stuff. So now let's say add equal to, you know what add is? Add is A plus B. Okay. So if I do add A plus B, and here I want to have it as, okay, I'm adding two series. Add two series. Then I want to do what? Print add. Okay. So I'm just going to do this, and you guys will do the rest. Does that make sense? So I'm taking this out. Does that make sense? 2 plus 1 is 3. 4 plus 3 is 7. 6 plus 5 is 11. 8 plus 7 is 15. 10 plus 9 is 19. Does that make sense? So
yes. Sorry,
yeah.
quick question.
Yes.
So the both inputs must be the same block.
Yes, that's what I was about saying now. Okay, let's say for example we have 12 here, and you run this. Because 12 plus an object cannot give you a number.
It's undefined.
It's undefined because this is undefined. So now let's say, for example, you have 11 here. You say now you have defined a value here and you run it. You have your value there. Does that make sense? It's just like you're doing array, you play an array. So in some questions, they'll say, okay, write a pandas program to add and multiply two pandas series or two pandas series or two one-dimensional array write a pandas to add multiply and divide two one-dimensional array and then into a pandas series. So they can make the question as complex as this, but the moment you understand the basics, that okay, first thing first I need to do is I need to convert this into a series so that they can see themselves 2 plus 1, 4 plus 3, 6 plus 5. Does that make sense? The first thing we did was we converted into a pandas series. So this is a series here. Then the next instance, we took this one and we add. We can take the second one You can call the other one sub, and we can call the other one multi, divide. But I want to just do the add. I don't want to do this because I feel you guys can do this. And just similar way. Bolu, are you able to install the pandas?
I have to set up a virtual environment first, so it's gonna take a little bit time.
Okay. So I'm going to give my remote control to, I'll give the first person. I'm going to give it to Mr. Francis. Mr. Francis, you have control. Can you check?
Okay.
Yeah, please, can you do that of subtract? Yeah, you have to name your variables correctly. You know, you have A and B, and
Okay.
you have to name your variable. Now you have to start from the variable subtract.
Okay.
Okay, this is it. This is it here.
You must.
Is it lost? No, you're not there. This is where you should start from. Or you want to do yours on a different page, on a different line?
No, I can't really access.
Are you on the phone?
No. Wait, what's going on? Is your mouse also moving?
No, it's not.
I have two mouse flashing, that's why.
My hands are off the system. But it's like you're going to you're not in the right.
Yeah. My mouse is not aligning.
Okay, you can guide me. Just guide me. Just watch me. Okay, so
it's gonna be sub equals
sub. Okay. Okay.
A minus B.
Okay.
Then print sub. No,
Oh,
sub
you want to print
series.
sub first? Okay.
No, print sub two series. Then print sub. No.
You want to print sub? Okay.
Yes.
What if I have capital S here? What will happen?
But it's going to output an error because of it's case sensitive.
Okay, correct. Okay, this is what we have. 2 minus 1 is 1, 4 minus 3 is 1, 6 minus 5 is 1, 8 minus 7 is 1. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Francis. Let me pass the mouse to another person. Can you let go of your mouse? 1 second. Mr. Derek? Mr. Derek?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you have control. Can you help us with the multiply?
Yes. So let's take sub equals A.
You have control. You have control. You're meant to type.
Oh, okay.
You know what stands for multiplication in Python? That's division.
Right.
You have to work on a multiply.
Oh,
Oh, this
You're meant to work on the multiplication. Mr. Derek?
yes.
Yeah, what do we use for multiplication?
Is it the star?
Yes.
Yeah. my keyboard. That thing is fence.
I can help you put that in.
Yeah.
But you need to change the name. It shouldn't be sub.
It's they much, multiply.
What do you want to call? You can call it any name. You can declare any name. Or what do you want to call it? You want to call malt or?
Yeah, mod. So
Okay. So what are you doing to the series?
yeah, the print mod.
You just want to print malt, or what action are you doing to it?
Print mod.
You just want to have a print malt. You have to be specific so that the person reading your code knows what's. Your print malt, what's the header?
So if I print mod, isn't it gonna give me the answers of
You need to have a header. What action are you doing to this? You're printing the action.
multiply? Okay, multiply A and B.
That's what your header should. Okay. So if you run this, so if you what if we change this T? What happens?
Then it won't give the answer because what we have above, the specification above, is not the same uppercase and
the declaration. Okay, cool. Yeah, they are case sensitive.
yeah.
So you can have 2 times 1, 2, 4 times 3, 12, 6 times 5, 30, 8 times 7, 66, 56, 10 times 9, 90, and 12 times 11 is 132. So that's what you have here. Thank you, Mr. Derek.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, sorry, today I'm in Panera Bread, so I can't even.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Vivian, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. So we're going to take on the division.
Okay.
Yeah, please. Or let's make it a bit complex. Yeah, I want you to do the multiply and the division of the whole series. Let's make it a bit complex. Okay. You know what to do?
Like at the same time?
Yep. Multiply, like just multiply, then multiply.
Then a comma?
No. It's just like doing BOD mass.
Okay, brackets.
Yes, yes. So you have to first name this.
For multiplication, it can still be the same, right?
So you want to do a multiplier and a divide, or a multiplier and an addition, anyone, but you need to
use. Yeah, I can do a mod underscore div.
Okay, mod underscore div. Okay, that's a fantastic name. Okay.
Yeah, A multiply B.
Okay.
I'm not a mathematician.
Okay. Then you have to separate them. What do you want? What do you want to have? What do you want? What do you want? What instance? What are you dividing with?
I don't understand.
What do you want to do? You want to divide by A or B, or you want to divide with A plus B?
Oh, A plus B.
Okay, you want to make it tough. Okay. So what are you trying to, what expression, what information are you passing?
Yeah, multiplying comma, dividing and dividing two series.
But you have addition too.
Oh,
You are actually using three
okay.
special
Mult-
characters there.
Okay, multiplying, comma, dividing, and adding series.
Okay.
Complex.
So this one is the numerator, just like and this is the denominator. So it's just some expression. So you have more div, you need to also specify this in there.
Right.
Yeah. So if we run this, we hope it doesn't kill the system. So you see what happened?
Yeah.
So the concept basically is taking your data, this list, converting it into a series, then you're able to do yours manipulation. So let's pass it on to Mr. Olu. Mr. Olu, are you there? Mr. Olu? Okay, correct. So Mr. Olu, I want you to do the add, subtract, and the divide of anyone you want. Just you can modify the code if you want to. You can use add, subtract, and multiply. Writing a code is not different. Is not rocket science. Well, it can be tasking sometimes. Mr. Olu, you're meant to explain to us why you do this.
Maybe it's muted.
Mr. Olu, are you muted?
Okay, he just put on the group chat that he can't use his laptop microphone.
Okay. Okay, so if you put those signs like that, you're going to hit an error because, you know, it's like the division is coming across a negative number. Well, it's possible, but you might not, the answer you might get might not be mathematically explainable. Right. So what do you intend to do? You want to do the add, subtract, and multiply. Okay, so we can do this. You already have your first expression as the add, and you want to have your second expression as the subtraction, right? You can decide to have b minus a. You can decide to have b minus a here. And you can also decide to, like, at the end of the day, I want the solution to be multiplied by b. So what happened is this is done first. This is done first. Then this is done. Then before b takes care of the solution from this parenthesis. But remember, in BODMAS, what comes first is brackets. You know, in order of precedence, the brackets will always come first. So this is a very complex simulation. Or it's just like when you do a plus b, 3, this 3 for 7 and other, then you're not dividing those values, then you multiply by b at the end of the day. Okay, so you can also now take this so that you can see the value you have. You can put it here. And you can run your simulation. Do you know why you have negative values? You have an idea why you have negative values? Anybody? Anybody? Do you know why?
Because some of the values of b are greater than a. So when you compute b minus a, it gives a negative.
No, the value of b is lesser than a. So
sorry, lesser, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, 1 minus 2 will give you minus. So for you to do that, for you to change this value again, like, hey, I want this, you can decide to, is either you do an absolute or you just do this. It's too much craze in here. It's too much craze. But you would wonder, like, why do you have to do that? Can't you just take this one out and this one out, and just return this? You know, sometimes they expect you to understand the whole concept. You know, if you return this back to normal, you should get this, rather than just playing around, doing all those instances. You know, because the thing is, you might do something like this, but they expect that answer, but they want the absolute value of it. So these are some concepts you've learned, and I want to just add one more instance to it. Sorry, Mr. Kenny, before I give it back to you. I want us to stack the series horizontally and vertically. Stack series horizontally and vertically. Anybody? Are we there?
Yeah, you can use the transpose, right?
No, you can't use the transpose. The transpose will just it's just like pivot and unpivot. That's the transpose has to do with rows and columns, converting rows to columns or columns to rows. You know, so there you in this particular class, Mr. Kenny has taught you concept of append, all right, that's one. So if you want to stack vertically, okay, you would use append. Okay, you would use append. Okay, so if you need to stack horizontally, you will use concat. Okay, these are very important concepts. They're very important concepts. Okay, Mr. Kenny talked about it yesterday. And let's see an append of A and B. A dot append. Then we'll call the method. Then we'll call B. Okay, let's see what that brings. You see, vertically. Right? Okay. So if we also need to, I just decided to bring this in so that you remember the concepts. All right. So let's do that of concat. That's a bit technical, but it's not much. It's still under the pandas series. So let's do a DF. Let's say we want to put in a data frame. That's what DF is short for, data frame. So we do a PD. Let's concat. That's the method. We do a concat. You know, a method where we have a parenthesis. Then you can now bring in your values, your series. Okay, A, comma B. Okay, you can specify that you want them to be, you have to specify the axis. Mr. Doze was talking about that earlier. And you can either print DF in a typical IDE, or you just do DF. You know, that would do the same thing with the print DF. Okay. So
Hello, sir.
yes.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. So it's up now.
Okay. Cool. We'll test it shortly. So if we run this, see what we've done. We have made this into like rows and columns. We have look at what we've done. The two series. Remember, if we print A, okay, let me show you something. if we print A, we're going to print B. Okay, please take note. Okay, take note. A and B. You see, 2, 4, 8, 10. You see, they're all like this. Now, the goal what we want to do is we want to bring these two together. So that it will be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, all together. Okay. Does that make sense? So that's what the concat does. So we have it. Okay. So similarly, I just take this and put it in the lab so that you guys can play with it as well. Previously, we were trying to run this. I need to go back to my working directory so I can run this, okay? Now, you see that I did the LX, I can see all my, everything that I have on here. See everything on here that I have on there. So I can decide to clear the terminal. Now I'm within my space. Okay. So this was what we're trying to do earlier. So guys, can you try from your terminal, please? It's very important. I'm putting this in the chat as well. Okay, this was the last one we did, and yeah, we have our concatenated series, looking like rows and columns. The 0 and 1 can be rewritten to be a column names, and the index as well can be changed as well. Okay, and all those were part of what you did yesterday. So Mr. Kenny?
Yes.
Okay, you have control. You want to give them a rough overview of what you did yesterday so they can have a clear understanding of pandas. So we're going to be very brief about this.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. It'll just be a brief summary. We look at how to use library. Now, one interesting thing about the library again that I didn't show you yesterday has come up in some of the presentation that Mr. Hope just did. In your working environment, you may have to install a library before you import it. So and that gives us the pip install. It showed us the pip install command. Now, we don't need this in this runtime, which is the Jupyter notebook, because a lot of the libraries are being bundled. Similarly, in any working environment like that, you can have a lot of libraries pre-bundled. But in an environment, you may be required to work with a particular library that's not already there, bundled. So you use the pip install. The name of the library could be Panda. So in this case, we don't have to do that. It's just an example. So I just want you to take note of that. That's quickly emphasized. We're using the OS library. In that library, we have a number of things. We can check the present working directory. The present working directory is the current folder on your system where you are working. It could be the home directory, but if you have done some navigation and you move away from the home directory, it will tell you where you are, like Mac, Linux, Windows. Essentially, it's an operating system module. So it also helps you to do file system operations. So you can check the directory. You can also get the parent of a particular directory, the parent of a folder. You can do this recursively. Keep getting the parent until you get the umbrella folder of every guy. Then we move further, still on file system, and we use the file open operations to write into the file. So we wrote the data, thereby we are able to build up a CSV file, a comma separated list of values. Now that took us to making use of Panda. So in making use of Panda AI, the first thing we did is to import pandas. And each time you do an import, you can create an alias. So the alias for pandas AI is PD. So each time we see PD, the interpreter will know that that's Panda. So, and I also talk about relative and absolute file name. The catch-all solution is to use an absolute file name so that the system will not be confused. But I pointed out that we use relative file name here because we are working in a single directory. So because we are not moving from one directory to the other, that is why it is safe to just use this relative file name. Relative file name means the very last name of the file. It will, without the folder, but the absolute file name will take the root folder, all the adjoining folders, and the file name itself. So when there is conflict or there is confusion regarding the relative part, the solution quickly use the absolute part to wriggle out of such issue. So we can take note of that. That's an emphasis. The time you have issues with file, try absolute file name. So That's by the way, but we wanted to read pandas from CSV. I also pointed out that you can read from an Excel, you can read from SQL. So you can build data frame data as well on the fly from list of values. So we run that. So we have our, from that CSV file, we have our data here that is dirty. Why is it dirty? Because at every particular time, this header is repeated. This header is repeated. So that took us to our first data cleanup task. So we went further and said to clean up this, we want to remove all columns that has date of birth as DOB. That's what we want to do. And remember to check snapshots. We have df.head, df.tail. Before we go for cleanup, we'll also do transpose here. Transpose of detail now. And Mr. Dozier showed you something yesterday, which is very good. That's the describe. So we can say df.describe. Describe is a general statistical summary. So in the description, it tells us a number of things. Count. It gives us counts of all the elements there. Uniqueness. It's telling us there are only 4 unique IDs. That shows there are a lot of repetition. And of course there is. Unique first name, 4. And unique gender is 3. So why do we have 3 gender? Because we have male, female, and we have another one called gender. Yeah. Date of birth, uniquely 4. Then top, the frequency. These are just statistical values. Then we show the columns by listing df.columns. And okay, we've already done the df edge. I can just remove this segment. Also, so we inspected the date of birth column here. That's what we have there. And the type is telling us there is an object. So there are 2 things wrong with this. The DOB string has to be removed. So we went ahead and did cleanup here. So checking the DF type, see what happens here. It tells us ID is an object, first name is an object. Everything is an object because there are a lot of confusion in the data set. So we did our first cleanup by filtering off where DOB is equals to DOB. Now, we don't have to use just DOB for that. If we come back to this data set, we could use ID as well. Where the ID is string ID, we can use that. That tells us it's an header or the first name. So we can use any of the headers. So we can replace this with ID and have the same result. If the ID column is the ID string, filter it off. So if we run that, we discover that we don't have such again here. So let's do a describe after this cleanup. So I'm going to insert the record here again. I'll say df.describe. I will say something has changed. Describe, run it. Now, the count has reduced, you can see. And the uniqueness of these values is now 33. The gender is now 2. And then we have top and frequency. Things change there. So if you check the types, after that cleanup operation, checking the type here, we still have our type object. So the reason is that this date of birth is not regarded as date string. So we have to do date conversion. So part of data analytics world is to clean up the data, is to transform the data into something meaningful. So we want to transform this date of birth into a proper date time. So we call the to date time function. So we say pandas is a function of pandas. So we say pandas, which is PD dot to date time. Then we now pass the column. So passing the column from the data frame object, then you supply the format. The format is year, month, day. So if you do that, you see run. So now there's a warning here. Just saying the value is trying to set a copy of a slice. Yeah, it's saying we're trying to set the copy of a slice. Now because we're setting against the DLP. What's happened is that the original DOB column here has been destroyed and has been replaced with the converted volume. But it's not disturbing anything, it's just a warning. So if we come back here and let us run df type again, you discover that so let's come back here. Now the df type again is telling us now we have date time. So because the conversion succeeded. Now we can select a particular column. We did something here and added column YOB, year of birth. We derived year from date. Now we can perform date arithmetic operations here because it's now a proper date type. So we extract year from date by using strip time, string f time. So dt, the string f time, and we just pass %y because we want the year. If we do %m, it will fetch the month, and so on and so forth. And we can fetch just all the years here. Now, we did something here. We said df3, a subset of this data frame, is equals to the original data frame df, where x is not equals to 1982. Remember, x has already been defined here as year of birth. Now, what it means is that we can rewrite this expression like this. One is more readable than the other. So we can write it this way and say df3 is equals to df of a certain condition. So the condition is defined as x itself is df of, that is a particular column, so which we defined earlier on as x. Now you don't have to do that, you can pass in the entire column name. So I say df of YOB, meaning year of birth, YOB. Okay, that's the column that I want to do a conditional on. And we'll say the condition is that we don't want 1982. So we do not equal to. So there's a inversion logic there. So put our 1982. Yeah, now you can write it. Either you first of all do your filter expression, name it into a variable, or you do it raw. Now, most time it is easier and more readable with this method, especially when you have a complex. I call this therefore. If you have complex logic, it's better to resolve your logic in a variable and pass it in. You just see that these two expressions will give same results. Well, there's a problem somewhere. YOB. So what's the problem? YOB? What's the problem? Say cannot find the key. What was that? Okay, I'll run this. X is TF of YOB. Okay, that's an error there too. Now I think we have not run the YOB operation. We don't have YOB. So I'm coming back up here in the expression where the YOB is derived. Okay, so we have our YOB derived. So if I now run this now, it should work. As you can see. Then similarly, this will filter out 1982. We know it's working now. So using the alternative method of expression, you can see that it's working. So the filter. Then you can convert a particular, that's date conversion. Then you can convert something to an integer. So we converted that column to an integer. You understand? And instead of using string, we can use integer. The other method we use to assemble a data frame is to build it from list and dictionary. So we have 3 lists here: list of country names, list of whether they drive, right-hand drive or not, and then we have number of cars per capita. So the 3 lists are combined into a dictionary called dataset. And you know, a dictionary is key value pairs. So the key here is the country, the list of value here serves as the value. Then we have the key here to be drive right. We have a list of value here, DR. Then we have cars per capita, the key, and we have the value. You can see that we have our full-fledged dictionary here. Now, it is easy to convert that into a data frame. It's a matter of passing the dictionary into the function pd.dataFrame, and you have your data frame object of car. Now you can compare the equivalent data frame set to the pandas data frame. We discover the panda is more readable and more amenable to analysis. So we move on here and say row labels. We can set row label. We can change column names to something descriptive. You understand? I just keep that, and we went on to slicing very quickly. Slicing means you just want to pick particular rows or particular column. And when we are dealing with fetching particular rows, we have 2 functions: the iloc, ILOC, or the LOC. What's the difference? The iloc, you can pass in integer values of rows. If you pass negative, it means you are working from last. If you pass positive, it means you are working from first. You can pass range of value. This is more flexible if you want to do things like series and loop. However, if you remember names of specific labels, this LOC is more useful. So you can do that to do those. Then we have a date conversion there, then we have the random number. That's what we went through yesterday. And that is the basic and fundamental, which is to feed in into data processing. So do you have questions? I want questions or contribution, everybody from the class. I'll give you the floor one after the other, questions and contribution. Then we'll go into the class assignment. So who want to go first?
Yeah, I just have this question about the OS. The OS, what they call parameters,
Library.
like to check, the OS library to see the current work directory and all that.
Yes.
I just want to understand, is it because it's a Jupyter notebook that is kind of different, or is it because the other one is a Linux? Because I know for Linux, we don't use this, and for the OS, we get the get current work directory, and for Linux is show current work directory or PWD. I don't know. I just want a clarification. I don't know if
they are related actually. In Linux, Mr. Oak, can you help me with the lab? Let me spin up the lab. We are there. Okay. Now.
So okay, let me just explain perfectly the way I want to ask it. Like, let's say we are on this lab now and we're not on Jupyter notebook. Is it the same thing we'll pass for the OS, or we can still use those?
Yes, in the Python code,
okay,
it is the same thing irrespective of the environment.
Okay.
So I want to use the terminal. Look at this terminal. This essentially is a Linux terminal.
Yeah.
So if I say PWD here, you can see.
Yeah.
Now this is a Linux command. It's not a Python function.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
Now, if we now go back to Jupyter notebook. Okay, back to Jupyter notebook.
It's up there.
Yes.
It was up initially on the Safari. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so this is Jupyter notebook now. Now we have this function. It's a Python function of the import OS module.
Okay.
So the function is called get CWD. Now it has the same expression as the Python, as the Linux OS command. Now, while you do that on a Linux prompt, you are writing this from a program, from a Python program. They do essentially the same thing.
Okay.
But from different environment. Now, whether you do this in a pandas, in a Jupyter notebook, or you are compiling it in a VS Code or PyCharm, or you are running it on the command line, the Python module will resolve to the same thing.
Okay.
All right. Any other?
That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ms. Funke. Any other contribution there or questions?
So, thank you, Ms. Finke. Thanks, sir. I just want to appreciate Funke, the question you asked that, and thank you for explaining that too, because I think in the past, that was sometime last week or week before, I tried putting in some requests in our in that our in our labs, in our ID labs, which I was working on Jupyter, but it didn't go on the lab. I was expecting it was going to go on the lab. It didn't go on the lab. So when I went out to the Jupyter notebook, tried, it went. So, but from what you explained in our labs, PWD, but on Jupyter, get PWD, which if you just put PWD, it's not going to work.
Yes, because PWD is a Linux host command.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
are working in a Python program, not Linux host command. So you have to call a Python function from the OS module. So even though they are doing the same thing, they are working in different environments.
yeah, thanks, because that it got me confused.
Yes. Yes, that's it.
Yeah, but yeah, thanks for all this. I'm sure after watching the video, it's going to help me get more. But as you're going through, I'm getting pieces of it.
All right, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions before we call it today? Okay, the assignments in the lab, you have the lab set up for these pandas environment. You are going to build a CSV dataset. You understand? Build a CSV dataset. What will it contain? Let us have orders like did. Okay. Let's make it simple. Or rather complex. I'm making complex. You remember, Mr. Hope helped me with the lab. Let's go to the lab. Okay. It's not there. Okay, you remember the orders table. Remember the orders table.
Yes.
Now you are going to do this pandas reading. Now you are now reading from SQL. Read that SQL table into pandas data frame. That's the first thing you are going to do. Please do that before the next class. That SQL table, read it into pandas. You understand? Now, using pandas,
Hello.
find.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
not done yet. I'm not done yet. I'm coming.
Okay. Better still, let us use the cities table. Everybody, can you get me? Use the cities table.
Please, can you help us type it out, because the recording might not get till next.
Okay. I couldn't see the. So I'll post it in the comment. Let me type it in my notepad and I'll post it in the comments. Just a moment now. Using pandas data frame. Read using pandas, read the cities table. Remember our cities table, list of cities in US. Cities in the US. Read that table into a data frame. That will be A. Now, B. Using pandas operations. Find the city. Find the state. Find the state or state code. You can just give the state code. State code will be sufficient. I'm doing that so that you can avoid joining of tables at this stage. Find the state. You can get the code. State code is okay for that. So find the state with the highest number of cities. You remember you have done this thing in SQL. Are you there?
Yes.
So the same thing. You're not doing it with Python. So that's will be an interesting assignment. I have it in the comments. Thank you all. Mr. Hope. Mr. Hope, are you there? All right, guys, let's call it today. So see you.
All right, do we have the assignments, please?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
We have the assignment, the cities table. We did in SQL. So
okay,
to find the state with the highest number of cities using pandas data frame.
okay, cool. All right, okay, guys, again, we have the query in the chat. So you guys can also, yeah, you guys can also pick up that query there, then do a test on the lab, okay? Try
Yeah.
to do some practice. It's very, very important for you guys to get some practice done.
Yeah. Please, can you share this notes, Jupyter Notes book with us?
Yes, yes, I'm trying to compile a lot of stuff for you guys.
Okay.
So make sure that you guys have the basic understanding, because when we're doing this in class,